Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I have some breaking news coming out here for you. So we're going to be talking about Russia and this lady on the screen here. Her name is Maria Zakharova. She's the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman. Okay, so she's coming out making some comments on yesterday's bidding. We had U.S. Congress, the House of Representatives, pass a major support bill for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. So 61 billion very soon is going to be going to Ukraine. This is going to be security assistance, providing weapons to Ukraine, and they're going to be able to boost up their forces with lots of weaponry going over there very soon. And Maria Zakharova was coming out and commenting on that. She made some statements like U.S. is facing humiliation in Ukraine, like in Vietnam, and obviously the U.S. Lost the war basically in Vietnam and also in Afghanistan. Many would say we lost the war in Afghanistan as well. The humiliation of defeat and pullout of Afghanistan was absolutely horrendous in most people's view. So she's coming out and stating that the U.S. is going to be facing a Vietnam style defeat in Ukraine at some point. Okay, basically saying that Russia will win the war in Ukraine, and many people would probably argue at some point they will. Okay, regardless of how much money the U.S. throws towards Ukraine, and maybe they're just trying to delay the inevitable here. Who knows? It's obviously a very controversial subject. Some people believe that they will win, some people believe they're going to lose. We're not really here to comment on that, but we do want to talk about more of what Maria Zakharova is mentioning. So let's bring this up here. We've got an article on Reuters. Russia says U.S. facing humiliation in Ukraine like in Vietnam. And it says here, Russia said on Sunday U.S. lawmakers' support for 60.84 billion more in aid for Ukraine showed that Washington was wading much deeper into a hybrid war against Moscow that would end in humiliation on par with the Vietnam or Afghanistan conflict. Saying hybrid war, if you notice, hybrid war against Russia, against Moscow. Obviously, the more that the U.S. funds this war, the more that it seems like they're involved. Many would say that they already are involved and have been involved from the very beginning. We've obviously been sending lots of weapons and supplies over the last 2 years that this war has been going on. So she's just kind of reaffirming that. President Vladimir Putin's 2022 full-scale invasion of Ukraine has touched off the worst fallout in relations between Russia and the West since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, according to Russian and U.S. diplomats. On Saturday, the U.S. House of Representatives passed with broad bipartisan support a $95 billion legislative package providing security assistance to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan over bitter objections from some far-right Republicans. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said it was clear that the United States wanted Ukraine to fight to the last Ukrainian, is what she said. Fight to the last Ukrainian, including with attacks on Russian sovereign territory and civilians. Washington's deeper and deeper immersion in the hybrid war against Russia will turn into a loud and humiliating fiasco for the United States, such as Vietnam and Afghanistan, Zakharova said. So something I was thinking about is I mentioned this, I think it was like yesterday or the day before, stating that this 61 billion going to Ukraine would most likely hold them out. I don't know, somewhere maybe, I'm just kind of speculating, 6 months to a year is what I'm thinking that money would last for. And if you think about it, it'll basically push this war out to hopefully, if it does help, last until the end of the year. And then what do we have this year? We have major elections in the United States. And I think the showdown is going to be between former President Trump and the current president, Biden. Okay, so what if they're just trying to keep this thing up until the end of the year, and then who knows, maybe everything's going to fall apart after. This could be a total political move just to keep Biden looking good all the way through the election coming up this year. There could be definitely a political move, and who knows if they will continue the support afterwards. We have heard from NATO that they would definitely back Ukraine for years to come. I think they were planning like a 5-year plan or 5-year deal to continue funding Ukraine. So this thing could really just go on forever. If you think about it, this thing could go on for another 5 years, 10 years, who knows? It all really depends on how long each side, Russia and Ukraine, can maintain fighting, okay? Obviously, Ukraine is really low on troops, and they've been boosting their troop numbers over the past few weeks. So we'll have to see how that goes. But it says here, she said, will give an unconditional and resolute response to the U.S. move to get more involved in the Ukraine war. U.S. Central Intelligence Agency Director William Burns warned last week that without more U.S. military support, Ukraine could lose on the battlefield. But that with support, Kiev's forces could hold their own this year. So if you notice, he's saying this year. So could they fight more than a year? We'll have to see. United States has repeatedly ruled out sending its own or other NATO member troops to Ukraine, which is fighting a grinding artillery and drone war with Russia along a heavily fortified 1,000-kilometer or 600-mile front. United States has lost more than 58,000 military personnel in the 1955 to 75 Vietnam War, which ended with Communist North Vietnam's victory and takeover of the South, while hundreds of thousands of civilians were killed. In 2001 to 2021 war in Afghanistan, the U.S. reported 2,459 dead and over 20,000 wounded in the conflict, which ended with the withdrawal of U.S.-led coalition forces and return to power of the Islamist Taliban movement. Soviet Union lost 14,453 personnel in the 1979 to 1989 war in Afghanistan. Civilian deaths in both wars in Afghanistan were vast. Russia now controls about 18% of Ukraine in the east and south of its neighbor and has been incrementally gaining ground since the failure of Kiev's 2023 counteroffensive to make any serious inroads against Russian troops dug in behind minefields patrolled by drones and guarded by heavy artillery. Ukraine has been for months been begging the United States to release more money and weapons to help it fight, though Russian officials have asserted that U.S. aid will not change the ultimate course of the war. So I want to comment on that. Russia has been saying that a lot lately. They're saying, go ahead and throw all this money into this war. It won't change the outcome. Russia will inevitably win. Okay, they've been stating that quite a bit, that no matter what, they will win this war. And if you think about some of the weaponry that Russia's been using and that what they're starting to ramp up more, like these Fab 1500s, I've done reports on that. These are major bombs. They call them glide bombs, and they're very powerful, and they completely devastate, trench lines and houses, buildings. They're very powerful bombs, and I think they're producing up to like Fab 3000s, I believe, which are, I think, three kilograms or something like that, 3,000 kilograms of actual explosives. So they're very powerful bombs that Russia's producing right now. And it's going to make it easier for them to win this war if they could devastate entire trench lines or front lines of the Ukrainian military. Zakharova said that ordinary Ukrainians were being forcibly driven to slaughter as cannon fodder, but the United States was now no longer betting on a Ukrainian victory against Russia. Washington, she said, was hoping Ukraine could hold on until the U.S. presidential election in November. So you see what I mean? Maybe they are trying to just hold out until the election. And are we going to see a complete flip-flop where in the end here they're just going to pull away from Ukraine and Ukraine's just ultimately going to lose this? What's really going to happen here? Because this has already been going on for 2 years. The U.S. legislative package includes measures that would allow the U.S. to seize billions of dollars worth of Russian assets frozen by sanctions imposed on Moscow that said Zakharova was simply theft, adding that the true beneficiaries of the whole package were U.S. defense companies. That's another thing is, there was like $8 billion that's going to be pulled from these sanctions from Russia's assets as well that were frozen towards the start of the war. And I believe they're going to be sending that $8 billion that they pull from these Russian assets and sending it to Ukraine. That's another part of this bill as well that's being passed through the House right now. So the leaders of the West and Ukraine have cast the war in Ukraine as an imperial-style land grab, showing that post-Soviet Russia is one of the top two biggest nation-state threats to global stability alongside China. Putin presents the war as part of a much broader struggle with the U.S., which he says ignored Moscow's interests after the Soviet Union 1991 breakup and then plotted to cleave Russia apart and grab its natural resources. The West denies that it wants to destroy Russia, which in turn denies that it intends to invade any NATO member state. So, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Maria Zakharova and give you some information here about the way that Russia sees this war going and the way the West sees it. So, I don't know, is the West just trying to prolong the inevitable here? Do they Do they know or maybe feel that Ukraine will eventually lose this and they're trying to hold out through the election? Um, or do they really think Ukraine is going to win here? Because Russia clearly they believe it's not just Maria Zakharova, but you know Vladimir Putin, Dmitry Medvedev, many top officials of the Russian government. They believe they're going to win this war, and they have been ramping up their military support, building lots of high tech bombs, high tech everything. And yes, they've been taking massive losses, but they're still in this fight heavily, and they still outgun Ukraine quite a bit. We just had a report that came out a few days ago stating that I think Zelensky was saying that they're outgunned like 10-1. Okay, and that's in terms of like ammunition, artillery, air support. Air support was like 30-1 or something like that. So, or air superiority. So let me know what you think down below regarding this article here that we just went over and Maria Zakharova's her statements. So do you think that the U.S. is facing humiliation, like a humiliating defeat in Ukraine, like what we saw in Vietnam and Afghanistan? Is that going to happen all over again? It's very interesting now that we start getting closer to seeing that Ukraine is really struggling, and one side or either side could really just fall apart and lose this war. But most likely, it's looking like Ukraine. But now that they've got this support coming from the United States, it looks like they're going to be able to hold on here at least for a few more months or maybe the rest of the year. So, yeah, let me know what you think down below. I'm curious to know your thoughts. Share your thoughts, concerns, and opinions down in the comment section. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. And also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below and hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.